The only thing I could think of for an intro was singing Godsmack's Voodoo for my Voodoo Ranger episode, and I'm not going to do that. So let's just get on with the show. This is Beer in Front, part of the Odd Pods Media Network. Sometimes the beer in front of you is the best one yet. I'll talk about some old school beers that maybe you've forgotten about, some new beers that have the potential to be a classic. I'll also talk to various people around the beer world and get their stories all about beer. That's Beer in Front, and it's coming up now. Welcome to the September 18th edition of Beer in Front. I'm your host, Dave Zalatoris, and Beer in Front is a proud member of the Odd Pods Media Network. This week, I'm going to be talking about Voodoo Ranger and how that has taken over the shelves in any grocery store, liquor store, gas station you go to. You can't go into one of those places without seeing a ton of Voodoo Ranger. So I'm going to talk about that later on in the show, and I'm going to have a couple different variants of Voodoo Ranger. If you listened to the show a couple weeks ago, you'll know I was on Pops on Hops. You're going to have to go check their podcast out because they released the edition that I was on, and we were talking about the great album Smithereens 11. So I'll include their link in the show notes, but definitely check out Barry and Abigail over at Pops on Hops. Oktoberfest is in full swing right now in Munich, and I know I have a couple people listening in Germany. So if you're one of those people and you went to Oktoberfest, get a hold of me. I want to hear all about it. Speaking of big beer fests, this weekend coming up is the Great American Beer Festival, and I have a correspondent. I'm going to have my friend DT over at Space Castle. He's going, and I'll get together with him, maybe sometime next week, and we'll record a segment on the Great American Beer Festival. Grandpa Beer sent me a suggestion on the Beer in Front email hotline. You can too if you want to email me, dave@beerinfront.com. You could also find me on all the social media channels at Beer in Front. I have a Discord server too. If you're interested, let me know. I'll hook you up with the link. I'm all over the place. But seriously, if you have any show ideas, feel free to reach out. And I'm curious, let me know if there's a beer you want me to try or whatever. Also, if you could let me know, where are you listening to this podcast? Because the last couple of weeks, the shows have been good, the numbers have been solid, but I'm having fewer listens on your traditional podcast platforms, but I've been getting more on YouTube. So are you listening to the show on YouTube? Because the numbers are pretty much the same. Here and there's spikes, there's dips, but overall it's the same, but more people are now listening to the show on YouTube. So if that's you, it's a pretty boring thing. It's just a static image. But if you are one of those people that listen to the show on YouTube, let me know if you have any ideas on how I can make that better and make it more enjoyable for you. In beer news this week, if you listen to the show for a long time, and thank you, but you'll know I'm a huge baseball fan. And earlier this year, Shohei Ohtani of the California Angels. I'm an old school guy. They'll always be the California Angels to me. But Shohei Ohtani hit this ball, and it was foul by just like a tick, but busted up a video board, and Coors Light had a commemorative can, and it was like all pixelated with like where the ball would have hit the video board and knocked out, and it looks really cool. They sold this as a one-off for $17 a can, and it sold out the same day. So that was pretty cool from Coors Light. Sticking with Coors Light, thanks to Bud Light's demise this year. Coors Light and Miller Lite, they're all owned by Molson Coors. Their last quarter was, according to their representative, the single best quarter in the company's history. So both Miller Lite and Coors Light are picking up the slack from people that are no longer, for whatever reason, drinking Bud Light. Big news out of Michigan, where Bell's is going to come out with a new fall-winter edition of their Oberon. Oberon is classic summer beer they've been putting out for years and years. So now they're coming out with Oberon Eclipse. This is going to be a little stronger and a little darker than the usual one. It's still a wheat beer that's going to have some cinnamon and citrus feel with coriander. So look for that. I think that's coming out next week. I had the guys on from Go Brewing about a month ago, and I was just reading an article on Fox Business that non-alcoholic beer, and I guess there's non-alcoholic wine and spirits. I don't know about that, but I guess they're out there. And sales of these alcohol-free options, whether it's beer, spirits, wine, they're up 31% over a year ago. Now, I'm a proud Gen Xer, but I just saw a report from Statista. I guess they're a statistic company that's out there. But Gen Z is a far more sober generation than the rest of us. Now, millennials, you're picking up the slack. You're doing a lot of drinking. But Gen Z is even lower than baby boomers and Gen X. And pretty much we're all dead. So Gen Z is really a more sober generation. They're not drinking as much alcohol as the rest of us. There's a watchmaker out there called Original Grain. They've come up with a new watch series in collaboration with Stone. And I guess like the watches are made with some wood from wood barrels or bourbon barrels that they've aged their beers in. The watches do look kind of cool. They're a little on the pricey side, but they do look sharp if you want to look over at Original Grain's website. Last year, I believe it was, Hamm's came out with this cool retro packaging for their beer that had the look of, I think it was maybe the 60s, but it was a really cool look. And that's now going to be, I guess they're going back to that permanently, where I think the sales for that was better than the regular can. So if you were a fan of the retro Hamm's can, you'll find that all the time now. Read an article over on Brewbound that Blue Moon is going to revamp their appearance and their strategy to try to gain more sales. I did not know this, but Blue Moon is still considered the number one in craft beer. But yeah, they're going to redo their whole visuals and strategy to try to get some more people to drink them. They're going to try to attract more younger people that I mentioned earlier on this, that, you know, more Gen Z people aren't drinking as much alcohol. So they have a non-alcoholic Blue Moon, so they're going to be focusing on that as well. AB InBev's Goose Island is coming out with a new IPA called Lost Palate. This is going to have mango and cinnamon. I'm not sure. I think that has potential to be really good. I mean, I like both flavors, so I'm sure I'm going to try it. But yeah, look for the new Lost Palate Hazy IPA from Goose Island. And finally, DoorDash and Aldi are joining forces. And if you want alcohol delivered from Aldi, DoorDash will hook you up. Aldi has a lot of private label beers and seltzers. I think they have wine as well. So if you're in the mood for some Aldi beer, you could get it via DoorDash. There is no escaping Voodoo Ranger when you run out looking for beer. My local grocery store sells 5 different variants, a variety mix 12-pack, and 3 different 19.2 ounce of those stovepipe solo cans. And I'm sure you could find it in any convenience store or gas station that carries craft beer. Voodoo Ranger came out from New Belgium back in 2017, and it was a revamp of their Ranger IPA line. That lasted a couple years. I don't remember it ever doing well. I think it came out in like 2009, 2010. Voodoo Ranger, it's such a popular brand that it has its own website outside of the parent New Belgium one. If you look at the website, Voodoo Ranger has 9 different variants, including a hard tea. In 2022, New Belgium was the top-selling craft beer, according to bevindustry.com. It had $429 million in sales, a 23% increase from 2021. Voodoo Ranger was a considerable part of that. How did Voodoo Ranger take over the beer aisle? They have 5 of the top 30 craft beer slots, according to Circana. New Belgium also acquired earlier this year, to focus on Voodoo Ranger, the production facility from Constellation Brands built in Virginia for Ballast Point back in 2017. The Voodoo Ranger character on every can, I guess, appeals to a younger social media audience that helps to create a buzz. New Belgium is also distributed nationwide, so I think that helps too. And we all know IPAs and hazy IPAs have paid the light bill for many breweries, so I guess having a line that's exclusive to that is a huge help. The price point here locally in Chicago is between $10 and $11 a 6-pack, so it's a little less, if not the same as, say, a comparable local one for me would be like Revolution Anti-Hero here. I've noticed that the grocery store and the main liquor store chain usually have promos on a 12-pack, so the price is lower than, say, a comparable local craft IPA if someone's just looking at the cost per beer. Remember Rebel IPA from Boston Beer? It came out in, I think, 2014. They tried different variants. I know they had a grapefruit and a session. They wound up having to change the original recipe and faded away. There's not even any, you can't even find it on the Sam Adams website anymore, Boston Beer. They threw a shit ton of money into that line with ads everywhere. I remember radio commercials, TV commercials, I think. They threw a ton of money into Rebel IPA, and it only came out 3 years before Voodoo Ranger. I wonder if Rebel would have had success today if they played the long game with it. It's been a while since I've been at a regular bar or restaurant with many tap handles. I'm usually at a tap room that just focuses on, that brewery stuff, but I don't recall ever seeing Voodoo Ranger on tap. I'm guessing the majority of sales are in the retail market. But how does the beer taste? That's the most important part. I grabbed a mixed case at Costco featuring 4 different ones. The regular Voodoo Ranger IPA, the Haze Glare, the Ranger Cashmere, and the Experimental IPA. I'm going to have each of them on the show, and I'll give a review later. All right, now I'm going to have the original Voodoo Ranger. This is an IPA, has 7% ABV, 50 IBUs, and I'm guessing this is more old school West Coast. I haven't cracked it open yet. They use Amarillo, Cascade, Mosaic, Chinook, HBC, Strata, and Citra hops here. So let's crack open the original Voodoo Ranger IPA. Oh yeah, that's definitely a West Coast style. Beautiful color, good foam here. The aroma is really nice. I get a lot of like the Citra here. So I get more of your like New England style hops than I do like a West Coast in the aroma. But the aroma does smell good. I'll give it that. Pretty solid beer. I like it. I like the flavor here. I get all of those hops. Little bit of bitterness at the end, not a lot. I was expecting a little more bitterness from a 50 IBU beer. That's a decent beer. Like if I was at the gas station and you know they're going to sell this compared to some of the other stuff they had, like if I was looking for an IPA, I would probably grab this one. This one's pretty decent. Yeah, it's not a great beer, but it's a really good, solid, everyday IPA. So if you're looking for an IPA, you're not out at a bottle shop or liquor store or tap room, you could just grab a Voodoo Ranger and you'll satisfy that hop itch you have. All right, next up on my tour of Voodoo Ranger, this is Haze Glare IPA. This is one you could vote on to see if you want to make this part of the rotation. It's geared towards gamers. The can has this Ranger dude in a hoodie, backpack, and a hat on. So I guess that is what gamers look like. I don't know. When I play MLB The Show, I don't dress like this, but I'm also a 56-year-old guy. So what do I know? This checks in at 7.7 alcohol and has 26 IBUs. The website doesn't tell you a lot about this, so let's just crack it open and try it. Haze Glare is very light in color, good foam, decent aroma. The aroma is very fruit forward from the hops. That's not bad. It's nothing overpowering here with the aroma and the taste, but it's a decent beer. I think the taste is pretty good. I get a lot going on here with the hops. I even get, and it might just be my taste buds, like the back, maybe even like a little banana flavor, but I get the tropical fruit notes, and for me, a little banana at the end. It's not a bad beer at all. It's like I said, it's 7% alcohol. It's not a bad beer at all. So I don't know if I'm going to vote for this one. I'm going to have to compare my notes with all the rest of them to see which one I'm going to vote for. But Haze Glare IPA, now this is only available in the mix pack. So if you have a Costco or a Sam's by you, or maybe your grocery or liquor store sells this in like a variety 12-pack, keep an eye out for it if you want to try Haze Glare IPA for yourself. All right, the next one up in the Voodoo Ranger series is Cashmere Eyes IPA. This is another one you could vote on and see if you want it in the rotation. I'm going to assume that this has cashmere hops in it, because why else would you call it Cashmere Eyes IPA? The label, it's got that same voodoo guy with like a nice smoking jacket on, got like a fake Louis Vuitton like shirt underneath, some nice sunglasses. I don't know, but it's 7.5% and 26 IBUs. So let's crack open Cashmere Eyes. Cashmere Eyes had a nice can open there. Pretty light in color, very light actually. Definitely a hazy IPA, good foam, good 2 fingers of foam here. Smells nice. Nothing overpowering with the aroma, but you definitely get some fruit notes. with the aroma. Big, like melon type taste that I'm getting from here. I get some like honeydew, cantaloupe type flavors from this. It's another one, like the other hazy one I had from them. It's not a bad beer. It's not great. I mean, it's there. I don't know if I would vote for either of these or would go back to buying it. I mean, there's nothing, like I said, it's not a drain pour, but there's nothing about this that makes me say, oh, I got to keep an eye out for this next time I head over to, the grocery store, the Costco, or anything. It's just there. So, I don't know. I think you could do better for a hazy IPA, but, you have it for yourself. Let me know what you think of the Cashmere Eyes IPA from New Belgium. All right, the next and last of the Voodoo Rangers I'm going to have is the Experimental IPA. Now, I was looking to see, what's experimental about this. I don't know. They only use Citra hop, so that's not very experimental. 6.6% alcohol, 32 IBUs on this. According to the website, they only use Citra, and they use for malt, pale malt, honey malt, and Pilsner malt. So let's crack open the Experimental IPA. The Experimental is very clear, so it's definitely not a hazy or New England style. Nice foam on here, good color. It does have that really good Citra aroma. So if you're a fan of Citra hops, from the aroma, I think you're going to like that. But it's really weird, looking on their website, and I'm looking at this can, and it says that it's a hazy IPA brewed with Citra hops. I'm looking at the beer, and it's crystal clear. So I don't know what they're trying to accomplish here, but let's taste it. That one's not bad. I think of the 4 that I've had, I might like this one the most. I think it has a really nice flavor. Not a lot of IBUs, but I mean, it's there. You get a little bit of bitterness. It's mostly the aroma and flavor that I'm getting, but I think the taste is really good here. Yeah, that's a solid, decent beer. If you're a fan of Three Floyds and Zombie Dust, the other big Citra hop. Now, I think Zombie Dust is a lot better than this, but I guess if you couldn't find Zombie Dust, this might be an acceptable substitute if you're a fan of that Citra hop aroma and taste. I still can't get over how they call this a hazy. I'm going to have to take a picture of this and post it on social media, and you let me know if this is hazy, because this is crystal effing clear. But of the 4, like I said, this one I think is the one I like the most out of the 4. And don't take this the wrong way if you're a fan of Voodoo Ranger. I want to know who's buying this. Maybe it's because I'm in a large beer market that there's plenty of options out there, especially in the IPA category. I can't recall ever seeing anyone go to the grocery store, go to the liquor store, what have you, and pick this up. So who's buying this? And like I said, if this is you, if you're a fan of Voodoo Ranger, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not poo-pooing your decision whatsoever. If this is your jam, God bless you. Enjoy the beer that's in front of you. But I'm still very curious how Voodoo Ranger has taken over the beer aisle. All right, that's going to wrap things up for this week's edition of Beer in Front. I thank you very much for listening. If you want to get a hold of me, you can email me, Dave at beerinfront.com. If you'd like to support the show, I have a Patreon page. You could head over to patreon.com/beerinfront for more information. I will talk to you next week on the show. And remember, sometimes the beer in front of you is the best one yet.